Hey, today I've got a really great topic for you. Millennials, love them or hate them. Hey, you may even have some of them in your basement still. But listen, they're really important, and this is why on today's episode, we're gonna go over why and what adjustments you need to make to your manufacturing business as it relates to sales and marketing to really capture the elusive millennial.
Welcome to IndustrialSage, a free video podcast series all about digital marketing for industrial manufacturers. Hear interviews with your peers and find out how they're solving the same challenges that you might be facing in your own field. Coming to you from the Optimum Production Studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is IndustrialSage.
Okay, well, these pesky millennials, and I can say that, you know why? Because I am one. I'm kind of at the top end. I was born I'm not gonna tell you how old I am. I'm not gonna go there. But millennials are obviously an increasing threat to manufacturers, right? When we look at it, there's a lot of interesting things going on here. And it's no secret to basically how things are quickly changing. And how we've got, if you look at the three generations, like the baby boomers, for example, are now retiring at a rate of about 10,000 per day. And there's a lot of baby boomers they're leaving the workforce. And so we have to have this whole transfer of knowledge. And it's a bit of a challenge. Why? Because when you look at Gen X, they're about half the size of the baby boomers. Okay, so that means there's going to be a big gap of jobs available. Now, the millennials come in right after those Gen Xers, and guess what? They're actually a much bigger population size than Gen X. So this giant gap of jobs that the baby boomers are leaving, the Gen X are going to rapidly fill, but there's still not going to be enough people to fill all those jobs. So what's going to happen? We have millennials that are going to be fast-tracked in there. So what's going to happen is the face of your new hire, the face of your new customer, the face of your vendor is largely going to be a little bit younger than what you are used to. Now, millennials really get a bad rap because sometimes they think, oh, they're really entitled and they don't want to work and they just want to have experiences and they bounce from job to job. Now, some of these may be true, but the reality of it is that the way that they buy is very different. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's not so different on how you and I buy. Yes, I'm a millennial. You may not be a millennial if you're listening, but we all buy. There's some very similar patterns. And when you look at it, when you look at the millennials and how they kind of grew up, or I even take myself, for example, I mean, basically, I did not have the internet for my entire life. There's a whole other group, I think it's the Xenials, I think that's what it is. I may be making that up. But there is a group that's coming behind where they're completely 100% immersed in the internet, and that is completely changed and will change basically how we're going to buy in the future. But right now, as far as the millennials go, I remember like when I remember we didn't have cell phones. I remember when I got my first cell phone, there was no text message, there was no all this, all these fancy schmancy things. If you're a millennial listening and you've been able to text, and I remember when you used to be able to text, and you had to like dial for like JKL was 9, or maybe that was 5. I can't remember. You had to hit it like 3 times to get the right letter. So texting was a lot harder back in the day. So anyways, I digress. But we basically, I remember just growing up where everything has just totally transformed. Like, for example, let's say like this the idea of having email versus snail mail. That was crazy. That's accelerated business ridiculously, where you're able to crank out so many emails super fast, whereas before, I mean, it was like we're going to handwrite or type it, we'll print it out, maybe we'll do bulk mail. So it's obviously sped everything up dramatically. Now, one of the effects is just the speed of buying and be able to connect what we're looking for, the problems and the challenges that we have, and how we're able to find those solutions to those problems or those challenges. And that right there is where there's a big gap. A lot of manufacturers have big gaps in terms of how they're able to be found when people have those challenges and they're looking for a solution to their product looking for a solution in a product or a service. So again, I know we've talked about this a lot here. The goal is really to be found, right? Because that's how we're buying. The other day, I was at a barbecue about a week ago, and so I was talking with some of the people there, and Amazon came up. all right? And so everyone's like, oh yeah, Amazon, I love it. Like I never leave the house to go, maybe not grocery shopping, but like all these other things. Like it's all there, it's on the internet, I buy, and that's how we go. Or Instacart, if you're not familiar with Instacart, Instacart is basically, it's kind of like shopping online for your groceries, and somebody will buy it, and then they'll actually bring it and deliver it to your house using like through an Uber or something. Or you have Uber Eats, or you have all these different things. The way that we're buying is different. So we are all, as a society, millennials, you, me for the most part, when we have a problem or a challenge, we're looking for something, what's the first thing that we do? We go to Google and we search, and we're looking for that challenge, and we're teaching ourselves and educating ourselves on that problem. We're looking for that solution, and that is where we need to be. Especially when you look at the jobs, and we were talking about before, when we're having a lot of millennials that are going to be stepping up in that role, the way that they buy is going to be, well, let's look on the internet and let's search for this problem first. So it may be a specific, weighing and inspection machining that they're looking for in the production line, and they may say, hey, look, we're looking for a system that can basically weigh things a million times faster so we can process things, a little bit quicker through that production line. Well, are they going to wait until 6 months later when they have either the material handling trade show, let's say a Modex or a ProMat or something coming? No, what they're going to do is they might start there, like Googling, let's go find all this stuff. Where are these solutions? That's what they're going to do. That's how they're going to buy. We've talked about it too. We had several episodes before where when we were talking with Chart Industries, and they talked about how they almost lost a deal because they didn't have really good video content, and their website was almost like non-existent. Whereas their competitors, who were way inferior from a product standpoint, had great looking stuff, and they almost lost it because of that. They were talking to these craft brewers, these guys that were in their 30s or whatever, they're younger, and that was the expectation. The expectation is, for a millennial, I'm going to look for something. If you don't have a website, forget it. You are dead. You're dead. If you don't have a website, you're dead. If it doesn't look good and I don't quickly understand it, like I'm making decisions very quickly on everything, like a snap of a finger. So we got to make sure that is dialed in and it's good to go there. Look, with your vendors, with your new hires, the way that you go into recruit new hires in, it's totally different. You can't just have a brochure. Oh, let's look at this brochure. No, you have to engage. You have to tell a story and bring it in. So, that is just, this isn't a very, hey, you do step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, but it's really just to help to kind of dial in a little bit more of that urgency in the sense of sort of that millennial thinking and why it's really, really important, why all of this stuff is vital that we make this change. And it's not just from a sales and marketing standpoint. I mean, it really is kind of across the board. And honestly, there's a lot of pushback, like, wow, these kids and whatever, and we don't understand this and whatever. Yeah, and it's completely legitimate. Yeah, we don't understand it. But the reality of it is, we have to understand it, and you have to make that transition. And just think of Blockbuster and Netflix. You remember Blockbuster? All right. They had the ability to be able to pivot and change, but Netflix, a little underdog, came in and they realized, hey, man, the internet is the future, like all these different things, and they totally innovated. They pivoted, and Blockbuster was the big 800-pound gorilla in the room, failed to make that move, okay? And because they thought, oh, we're Blockbuster, whatever. And Netflix has opened up. They are hugely successful, right? And they are way more successful than Blockbuster ever was in their heyday. They took advantage of the technology there. So I really charge you with the question of thinking, how can you take advantage of today's technology? How can you take advantage of the internet? How can you take advantage of these new ways of being able to get your company out there, to sell to that new customer who's likely a millennial? How are you going to reach them? There's an awesome potential, and there's amazing opportunities to be able to use that to really do amazingly cool things, to reach people, to grow your business, to generate more leads, to recruit great talent, and that's, you just got to be thinking in that mindset. So, a little bit of a long rant today. Very philosophical, maybe. So anyways, if you have any questions, hey, listen, I'd love to answer them. You can reach out to me or the Industrial Sage team at industrialsage.com/questions. We'll answer them for you on the show. And as always, if you're listening on iTunes, we would love a review or share this on social media. If you're not on our email list, make sure that you go to IndustrialSage.com, you subscribe so we can send these videos to you every single week. And that's it. I'm Danny. This is Industrial Sage. Thanks for watching or listening. One of the most important elements of developing a digital marketing strategy is figuring out your buyer personas. We have a downloadable for you that is a quick walkthrough on how to fill that out. Long story short, your buyer personas are the people who are going to be buying your product, your prospects. They could be influencers or decision makers. And figuring that out is very, very critical to figuring out what your content strategy is and how you're going to deploy that and how you're going to distribute your content. So download this. It's just a quick few slides, and you can we have some questions, and you can fill out who those target personas are, and then you can take that and help to develop your content strategy. And this actually goes into the digital marketing content planner. This can kind of feed into that. So go ahead and download it, and if you have any questions, reach out. We'd love to help you.